Want help to grow your business? Download BRiN, the world's first business advisor in your pocket. To find out more, visit BRiN.ai or search the App Store today.
Hi, I'm Carolyn Birchill, and welcome to this episode of Service Please. This is the show where we highlight the importance of service, as we believe that good service means good business. In this episode, we're going to talk about what makes great customer service and how to gear up your business and team. Joining me is Catherine DeVrye, former Executive Woman of the Year, twice named Australian Keynote Speaker of the Year, who has spoken on 5 continents on service, change, and resilience. Catherine has also published 8 ravingly successful books, translated into dozens of languages, 3 specifically on the topic of customer service. Welcome, Catherine. Thanks for joining us today.
Great to be back, Carolyn.
Now, the first book you wrote on customer service was 20 years ago. Do you think a lot has changed in customer service over the years?
Well, I think customer service has certainly improved in Australia and globally over the last 20 years, and technology has changed. And it's hard to believe it was 20 years ago since the book first came out, and there's been 4 or 5 editions since then. But one of the things that hasn't changed is the fundamentals.
Right.
The technology has changed, but the fundamentals haven't changed. And just when you asked me that question, I thought, gee, there's a whole generation of people out there that still need to understand the fundamentals.
Yes, absolutely. Now, you travel a lot for both business and pleasure. What are some of the perhaps wow customer service experiences you've experienced yourself over the years?
Well, probably the most wows happened when I was living in Japan back in the late 80s.
Yes.
And that's what prompted me to write the book, because just about every time I turned a corner, there was another wow experience, because, you know, in Japan, the word customer translates into honored guest in one's home. And when I came back to Australia, I realized we had to lift our game, and that's what prompted me to write the book. So, for example, my motorbike got stolen. And so I reported it to the police station, and I went to get another motorbike. And the guy at the motorbike shop said, "Oh, no, that's terrible that someone's stolen your motorbike. Don't buy one. Someone will find your motorbike. Please take this with our compliments." I went, wow. But that was just, and when I wanted to get the phone on in the days when you had landlines, you know, they said, "What time would you like the phone on? When would you like us to come?" And I said, "Oh, maybe in 2 weeks' time." That was my expectation.
Yes.
And they said, "Why so long?" And I went, because that was the expectation in Australia. I said, "Well, maybe tomorrow?" And thinking I was just being silly. And they said, "Sure, what time tomorrow?"
Wow.
So, and it was experience after experience after experience like that were wow experiences in Japan, which prompted the first book. But there's been other wow experiences back in Australia, and there's been other not so wow experiences in Australia and around the world.
And you learn from that, don't you? I had a wow experience in Japan, actually, now that you mentioned Japan. I was lost and needed directions, and I asked a lady for help. And she didn't speak English, and I didn't speak Japanese. But obviously from the map, she could tell where I needed to go. And she had a little umbrella. She was an older lady, and she took me there. It was a 5-minute walk, and yet she took me there to where I needed to go, make sure I was okay, and then left. And I was just like, wow, like that
is so normal.
Right.
That's a normal thing. And so whenever I see people looking for directions or looking at a map, having lived in Japan for 2 years, I often say, "Can I help you?"
Yes.
Because it just became part of the culture.
Part of the culture.
And part of my DNA as well, I guess.
Do you feel that, and probably with the advancement of technology, that people's expectations of customer service have changed over the last 10 years?
Absolutely. And research shows that 67% of consumers have higher expectations than 5 years ago.
Wow.
30% expect more or less the same, and less than 3% have lower expectations.
Wow.
Now, I have no idea where the researchers found those 3% of people. Because just in about every group I speak to around the world, the bar is going up all of the time. And you're happy with okay service till you get good service. And you're happy with good service till you get great service. And you're actually happy with great service, you come to expect it, until you get awesome service. And the bar just does go up all the time. You think, I used to backpack around the world and, stay in tents and hostels. And now if room service is late at a 5-star hotel, I'm going, oh.
Where is it?
Expectations change. And expectations change as you've experienced different levels of service.
A 67% shift in 5 years, that's quite high. That's quite a high shift.
It is, but I think we're more aware. As consumers, we're more aware as well. I used to work for the Minister of Consumer Affairs in Victoria many, many years ago, and people were less reluctant to complain in those. Now people have got higher expectations of what their rights are and what service to expect, not only from a legal perspective, but just from a human perspective.
Yeah, they're willing to speak up
They
more.
are, a lot more than they used to be.
Do you think young people see jobs in the service industry as still a temporary thing? So, like when they're studying and they're perhaps working as waitresses or in a petrol station or that kind of thing?
I think they do. And again, I think it's almost a back to the future when I think the book came out 20 years ago. Because I did. I mean, I worked as a waitress, I worked as a dishwasher, and I always thought service jobs were jobs you got until you got a real job.
Yes.
And yet, if you look at the dictionary definition of the word service, there's two definitions.
Right.
One is the attendance of an inferior upon a superior. And that sort of implies a subservience that I don't think we should have. And I don't think anyone should have that. But the second dictionary definition is to be useful. And isn't that a great definition?
That's a great definition.
No matter what you're doing, whether you're sweeping the street or you're working in a bank or a big institution, to be useful. And I think we've got to shift the whole concept of service from being subservience to service being useful. And it doesn't matter what job you're in. We're all in the service industry. And 70% of jobs at the moment, or more than 70%, are in the service sector. And I think we have to think of service as being useful to other people.
It just even as you said that, and I've never heard that definition before, automatically makes me reshift one's view of customer service, because helpful is in any job, every single job. There's an element of being helpful.
But it's not, because it's not just subservience, until I get a real job. And I came across a great definition only about a year or so ago by a guy called Dr. W.T. Grenfell. Because who's he? Never heard of him. He was a Canadian doctor that was a missionary back in the 1800s. Wow. And I came across this quote that he wrote back in the 1800s saying, "Service is the rent we pay for our room here on earth." And I just love that, because I think we should all want to be of service, not kowtowing to people, not that sort of traditional service definition, but to be useful, to make a difference. And every time when we go to work, whatever our job might be, even if it's not the job we really want to have, we might be working towards a bigger dream, a bigger job. But every day to go to work thinking you can make a living and make a difference.
Yes.
How hard is that?
And empowering, I think. A lot more empowering.
Absolutely.
No, that's a great one. Thank you. When companies are looking at bringing a service culture into their environment, where do you think the responsibility lies? Is it the management or is it the front line?
Everyone. It starts with the management. Leadership starts at the top, and monkey see, monkey do.
Yes.
There's no point if the managing director of a company says, yes, customer service is really important, and his staff sees that he doesn't return calls or he doesn't look after things. But the research also shows that happy employees yield happier customers. So certainly it's creating that culture, and I think it's also rewarding great service if they get really good feedback from one staff member to celebrate that success. And on the other side of it, if they get not such good feedback, celebrate that success publicly with the rest of the team.
Yes.
But if they get poor feedback, to call that person in privately, one-on-one, and to do some coaching in terms of how this can improve. But the culture in an organization, it's everybody's responsibility. I'm just amazed that even in this day and age, a lot of people say, oh, customer service has got nothing to do with me. That's the customer service department.
Yes.
Customer service has got to do with everyone, because if you're not serving a customer, you need to be serving somebody who is.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, so, okay, maybe you do have a customer service center within your organization, but everything needs to feed into those people so that they have the information and the knowledge to then share with the customers.
Exactly. Well, I like to think of the customer as a little bit like a baton in a relay race. I know this is a pen, not a baton. I'm quite aware of that. But I like to think of, if you're a member of an Olympic team, you've got two responsibilities. responsibilities. You're in the stadium, there's 100,000 people, when the gun goes off, you got two jobs. One, run like blazes and add value with every step when you're carrying that baton, that customer. But as a member of an Olympic relay team, you have another responsibility, to understand the strengths and speed and weakness of who's passing you the baton and practice that smooth transfer. And then to practice that smooth transfer to whoever you're passing it on to. Because it's an old adage, but any team is only as strong as its weakest link. And it takes time to get those processes right, but it takes a whole lot longer if you drop the baton to pick it up.
Yes, it does.
And I think that's really important, that everybody needs to understand the important role, and made clear to them that even if they never see a customer, even if they're the most junior or lowly person in the organization, they play an important part on that. And when I first worked in Australia many years ago, I worked as a computer operator up in Weipa, and I was given the job of doing the all-night payroll run. I'd never seen a computer before.
Yeah.
And they said, oh, don't worry, Kath, nothing can go wrong, just follow the sheets. Anyway, about 4 in the morning, the whole system goes, whoo, and I didn't do anything wrong, I just work here.
Yes.
I'm ashamed to admit that, especially on television, that I didn't just work there. At that point in time, I was carrying the baton for the entire mining organization, because these mine workers weren't your real negotiable types. And if they didn't get their pay the next day, they would go on strike, which meant the bauxite wouldn't be loaded to go the next stage in the relay to be made into aluminium down in Gladstone, to go the next stage in the relay to be made into raw materials for fridges or microwaves, to the next stage in the relay to wholesale, to retail, to ultimately go the whole cycle and pay the salary of a lowly computer operator. But no one made me feel an important part of the team. Well, I just work here. I didn't do anything wrong.
Yes.
Now, luckily, my boss got in before the pub opened at 3, which was the only critical success factor, and we got it out. But the two most underutilized words in business are thank you.
Yes.
And to make people feel that no matter how lowly their job might be, they're an important part of the team, and it's not the person in finance who pays their salary, it's the customer.
It's so, I really agree. I've never heard that analogy about passing the baton. It's a great one. I've usually used ones myself where you watch, ducks or birds fly in a V shape and, working together as a team to get distances further. It's a fabulous analogy. And also the other one about thank you. I've actually had feedback here at BRiN where my team say to me, by you saying thank you.
To continue enjoying this presentation, download BRiN, the world's first business advisor in your pocket. To find out more, visit BRiN.ai or search the App Store today.